All right guys, today we're going to do an install tour of the Chase Bay's dual piston brake booster delete with 6:1 pedal ratio adapter for the GR86, FRS, and BRZ. This is the perfect manual brake setup that will give you way more control of your car, whether you're tracking the car, drifting, or rally racing. Regardless of whether you bought this for an ABS car or a non-ABS car, we're going to go over both kits to alleviate any sort of confusion. We'll be showing the installation process with our chassis-specific motorsport brake line kits. We offer brake line solutions for every use case, whether it's caliper lines, brake line relocation kits, with ABS, without ABS, or even an inline handbrake. We're going to cover everything you need to know for installation regardless of your setup. On the dual piston manual brake, this L banjo fitting will connect the front brake lines, and the port coming from the bias valve, as you see right here, will connect to the rear brake lines. If you purchase the dual piston for ABS, you will connect this port to the front circuit, and you will connect this port to the rear circuit on the actual ABS unit. The dual piston manual brake for ABS does not include the adjustable bias valve because the ABS module is responsible for controlling front and rear brake bias, making the bias valve redundant. Now let's walk through the install process on the car. We're going to start by completely removing the brake booster and disconnecting the factory push rod from the brake pedal. This will not be reused. In some cases, this product bolts on without any modification of the firewall, but in this particular case, we have to make a small notch in the firewall. Using a marker and the firewall adapter plate as a template, draw an outline on the firewall as shown here. Now carefully cut the notch out of the firewall. We have a 5-minute cut guide linked in the video description. Next, place the included rubber gasket into the back of the adapter plate and cut a notch in the gasket to match your firewall. Don't forget to bench bleed the master cylinder, as it's much easier to do outside of the car. We'll add a link in the description showing you that simple process. Before we mount the master cylinder, we need to talk about preloading the push rod. Normally there's 3 millimeters of dead space when you first engage the push rod. That 3 millimeters at the push rod will transfer through your pedal arm to about 1 inch of dead space when you apply the brake. This is not what we want. We want instant braking response. To get rid of this, we need to add preload to the push rod, 3 millimeters of preload to be exact. The most obvious way to do this would be to extend the push rod out 3 millimeters longer as you install it. But the problem with this is sometimes people accidentally add too much preload to the push rod. Then when they bleed their brakes, they actually introduce an air pocket to the system. So we need to bleed the brakes and go out for a test drive without the preload. We don't want any preload in the push rod until we're all done. To make this whole process as easy as possible, we simply add 3 millimeters worth of washers to the flange on the master cylinder. We use 2 M8 washers as they come out to exactly 3 millimeters. This 3 millimeters of washers will temporarily extend the pedal throw. After we bled the brakes and gone out for our test drive, we can remove these washers, and when we tighten everything up, exactly 3 millimeters of preload will be added. This is such a simple way to do it, and it saves you from wasting a ton of time up under the footwell trying to adjust it. So with the washers in place, now we can install the master cylinder and the adapter plate on the firewall and tighten the 4 nuts on the back using a 13 millimeter socket. Next, install the push rod and clevis, placing the push rod into the master cylinder and the threaded stud on the clevis into this hole on the pedal arm. Use the supplied 13 millimeter nut to fasten the pedal adapter. Then tighten the bolts on the master cylinder flange with a 5 millimeter Allen. Now it's time to install our brake lines. For us, we're using our brake line relocation kit for dual piston brake booster delete. Starting with the front circuit, the rear port on the banjo will utilize the longest line to connect the right front wheel. Then the next longest line will connect still on the front circuit on the bottom port to the left front wheel. The shortest line is used to connect the bias valve to the rear brake circuits. Both hard lines will tie into here. However, on this car, we're using our handbrake line kit for an inline handbrake. So coming from the bias valve, this will route into the cabin to your handbrake. For our ABS variant of our dual piston brake booster delete, it's a super simple install. Starting at the front circuit, you'll route your line behind the hard lines, wrap around the ABS module into position MC2. Continuing on with the rear circuit, it will route in the same manner. You'll wrap around the ABS unit and plug into MC1. Both lines are the same length, however, you'll use the line with the logo for the rear circuit and the line without the logo for the front circuit. Now that everything's installed, you can add brake fluid and bleed the brakes. After you go for your first test drive, you can remove the 3 millimeters worth of washers and the preload is now set. Future rebleeds can be done with the preload. There's no need to preload it again. All right, that's it. Now you've got consistent, controllable brakes that work the same way every time. For more information about this product and other products, head to chasebays.com and check out this video.